So here I am, 3 weeks into training for the 2025 Tokyo Marathon. My legs are somewhat holding together, my fitness is actually improving, and there's so much that I've learned in this short time already. Hey, I'm Jack, back again with another marathon training series here on the channel, obviously delving a bit deeper into my first 3 weeks of training for the Tokyo Marathon. Going to keep this video very conversational and just let my thoughts be blurted out into the camera here, mainly focusing obviously on the first 3 weeks, what I've learned since starting the training again, but also things that I've actually had to change over the course of these 3 weeks too. So without further ado, let's hop right in. And just a heads up, going to be talking from my phone just to make sure that I'm providing my splits and a bit of data as well, because I know a lot of you were keen on hearing improvements and adjustments over time, so I hope that is useful. Kicking off with week 1, and I will admit it was a bit of a shock horror experience for this week, going from running, I think it was 41 kilometers in the previous week, all of a sudden going up to 72 kilometers, which for those who haven't watched my previous marathon videos, I hit my peak mileage at 83 kilometers too. So being 11 kilometers short in week 1 was a very hefty ask for me too. So I'll first start off with actually saying that throughout this first week was when I realized I needed to make a change to the original training plan that I had created for my video I'd done about a few weeks ago now. Realizing that just with bumping up both my mileage, but also the amount of days that I was at the gym, realized that I needed to drop a day of running there because 7 days straight just wouldn't have been doable for me. So I got to the Wednesday or the Thursday, deciding there and then to remove my Sunday easy recovery run, feeling that while getting that extra distance or mileage may have been good for my aerobic base, just found like I really needed to listen to my body, which was saying, Jack, you need this as a complete day of rest here. But that still left me with 8 sessions in 6 days to complete. And yeah, it definitely took a lot out of me in this first week, having to get up pretty early, say around 5 a.m. to fit my sessions in. Started off with my 7-kilometer run, which once my Garmin Connect app wants to load. So did that with an average pace of 5 minutes 52 per kilometer for a total of 42 minutes for that day. Tuesday was when we got to my first double session. So did gym in the morning and then decided to head out for my interval sessions in the afternoon. I remember actually this was quite a warm day. So for the 6x800 meters, running in 30-degree weather after training for Chicago during the winter was a very rude shock to the system. But I did realize too, training in the afternoon and actually fueling myself before a run, noticed I had quite a lot of energy. So when it came to the 6x800 meter intervals, I'll read out each of the different splits. So I did the first one in 3:13 at an average pace of 4:02, the second one at 3:12 for an average pace of 4:01, the third one, 3:12 as well for 4:01 again. The fourth, 3:22 for an average pace of 4 minutes 13. Fifth one, 3 minutes 15 for 4:05. And then the final one, 3:18 for 4:08. I do think my body had a bit of a rude shock in this second day of training, obviously doing the gym and then backing it up with the 6x800 meter intervals. And it got to a point too, like during my cool down phase of the run, after completing the quality session bit, I just needed to stop and actually walk the rest of what I'd usually run home. Not too sure you can hear me through this wind, but I usually run all the way up this little stretch before finishing my runs, but today decided to cut it short early and just walk home, being 27 degrees after my first interval session. So you don't have to always do everything to a T. And literally day 2 of training and I'm not doing it to a T. So yeah. Getting over to the Wednesday now, and this used to be my dedicated day for strength training, now becoming my midweek long run day. So did 14 kilometers there in a time of 1 hour, 16 minutes for an average pace of 5 minutes 26. So keeping this one very easy and being mindful, being week one as well. I didn't want to overdo it in this first initial stage of training and suddenly being burnt out and not being able to get up for week two. We get to the Thursday now, and this is where I've started to include tempo runs for the first time ever. Now, having no experience, I really didn't know what to expect. And actually, looking back when I originally created the Tokyo training plan, felt like I was a bit too ambitious again as well. So this first week was a lot of learning and readjusting expectations here. So originally I was supposed to get out for 8 kilometers worth of tempo, but then and there, and especially having very weak base mileage going into this training block, decided 8 kilometers just wasn't going to be possible for, I'd say, a good majority of the training block. So ended up changing it to 20 minutes worth of tempo. So have a 2K warm up and a 2K warm down on either side, but just have 20 minutes to actually work at a pace slightly faster than marathon effort. In total, during the 20 minutes, I hit 4.1 kilometers for an average pace of 4 minutes 16 per kilometer there. And it was actually quite funny in the, going through, I think I had probably just over 2.5 minutes left. Had a runner just running in front of me, probably just a bit slower than what my pace was for the tempo. Tried to pick up the pace just to get past them and so I could have a bit of clear way as well as giving them enough space, but ended up just pushing way too hard and found myself on the side of the footpath throwing up and having them pass me not too long after. So I found the 20-minute tempo was a good target range for me to work towards in this first half of the build. And obviously, as I'm starting to build my fitness and noticing that after here completing week 3, I feel like I may be able to bump it towards the 8 to 10 kilometer mark, but not going to put any pressure on trying to hit certain distances. Feeling like if I can get to 30 minutes worth of tempo running at a good solid pace faster than my ideal marathon pace, then I'm happy with that. We get to the Friday, which was another double day. So ended up doing strength training in the morning and then a 10K run in the afternoon. That time there was 54 minutes, 18 seconds for an average pace of 5 minutes and 23 seconds per kilometer. Was 24 degrees, so a little warm-ish for my liking, but again, kept it relatively easy. Monitored the heart rate as best as I could, and again, wasn't putting too much pressure, just as long as I was ticking off these sessions. And then we get to Saturday. So first long run off the block, which was 22 kilometers. Did that in just over 2 hours and 34 seconds for an average pace of 5 minutes, 28 seconds per kilometer. 19 degrees and had a few showers both before getting into the depth of my run and also afterwards. So it felt relatively cool for the entire time. I will say though that where I usually run, it's usually just a point-to-point back and forth situation. They've had so much works being done to the footpaths that I've had to actually switch around what my usual route is. So finding that I was even struggling to hit that 11Ks before I could turn around to complete the full 22. So a lot of adjustments in these initial stages. So in total for week 1, I hit 72 kilometers, which was really exciting to see. And then getting into week 2, which was a 10K recovery run on the Monday, which I did in 57 minutes for an average pace of 5 minutes, 38 seconds per kilometer. I will admit my legs were tired going into week 2. So when I got to Tuesday, going into my strength session in the morning and then my 4x1 mile repeats was also another big ask. So for the 4x1 mile repeats, my average pace for each of the miles were 3 minutes 58 per kilometer, 4:06 per kilometer, 3:55 per kilometer, and 3:51 per kilometer. Again, the 4x1 miles were kind of reducing the fatigue that I experienced with my 4x2K repeats, but also working on more speed this time with the 6x800 meters that I'm slowly building up to 8x8 at the moment. Found myself running on the grass from time to time with all these footpath works happening, but managed to still get it done with some relatively good times. We get to the Wednesday, which was a 16K midweek long run, completing that in an hour and 30 minutes for an average pace of 5 minutes 38 per kilometer too. So again, keeping in that really easy range. And just going to go back and check my heart rate for that was an average of 145. So really good zones there for me at that point in time. My tempo session for week 2 was the first time that I actually felt solid through an entire tempo run, completing my intervals. I managed to hit 4.76 kilometers in that 20 minutes as well. So that was an average pace of 4 minutes 12 per kilometer. So after completing the 20-minute tempo in cooler weather for week 2, felt like I got a real big mental confidence boost from that too. Understanding that it was quite tough during that 20 minutes to keep that pace that I was hitting, but also once completing my cool down, found my body went straight back to normal and I was like, oh, I'm fine. Friday, again, strength in the morning, and then in the afternoon had a 12-kilometer run to get done. Did that in a time of 1 hour, 6 minutes and 16 seconds for an average pace of 5 minutes, 30 seconds. Long run for the Saturday was 25 kilometers. Now, going and comparing my Ballarat Marathon and Chicago Marathon builds, I feel like I was never really hitting 25K long runs until the final few weeks of my training block before putting in and sprinkling those 30K plus runs. So seeing 25Ks appear on week 2 of the training plan was quite daunting to see, to be honest. Kept it super easy and chill, doing that in a time of 2 hours and 19 minutes for an average pace of 5 minutes and 33 seconds per kilometer. Speaking of my long runs, this was also the first one where I trialed Pocari Sweat in a powder version, so I had to mix it together with some water. But this is going to be the electrolyte drink mix offered on the Tokyo Marathon course. So wanted to give it a go, and happy to say that I had no issues whatsoever when consuming it. I do also feel like my legs fatigued quite early in this 25K run, and I can't quite remember, but I feel like I only took the Pocari and one gel and actually didn't eat anything before the run too. So I felt like that's why I felt quite fatigued and just didn't have much energy after finishing that one. Total mileage for week 2 was 85 kilometers, which again, like was 2 kilometers more than my previous mileage PB that I set in my Chicago Marathon build. So it was crazy to think like, look, we've still got a good 10 weeks left of this program. Like, just settle down, Jack. Heading into week 3, this was actually the first time where I started to feel like, okay, I'm really noticing a difference in running more, but also just being able to be excited to go out for so many runs and also gym training sessions during a week. Started off the Monday with another 10K, did that in 56 minutes and 51 seconds at a pace of 5 minutes 39 kilometers. Nice and easy, chill, nothing too stressful to report. Getting into the Tuesday, strength session in the morning, but bumping up my 6 by 800 meters to 8 by 800 meters. So if I open up the splits for this one, so rep 1 was 4 minutes 1 second, rep 2, 3 minutes 53, rep 3, 3 minutes 54, rep 4, 3 minutes 51, rep 5, 3 minutes 54, rep 6, 4 minutes, rep 7, 4 minutes, and rep 8, 3 minutes 53. Just as I'm reading these numbers now, I'm like, okay, I can vividly remember this one because I was, again, doing it along the section of footpath that was currently having work. So I think it was just short of 2 kilometers. So I was trying to fit like 2 reps in, 2 reps back, 2 reps in, but was just getting quite fatigued and tired. And I remember for the 7th and 8th one, I wanted to try and position myself as close to the water bubbler as possible. So remember doing these U-turns to actually stop there and be able to get a drink. We get to the Wednesday, which was my midweek long run, completing that in a time of 1 hour, 38 minutes, 29 seconds for an average pace of 5 minutes, 27 seconds per kilometer. I remember this one too, because I was up at like 4:30 in the morning. So I'm like, look, you're not going to be able to get back to sleep. So I ended up getting out there at 10 past 5 after doing some warm-ups. And yeah, it just felt like I was out there forever, this 18K run. And look, I wasn't going the fastest, but yeah, it was just a grind. On Thursday, my tempo run. So again, 20 minutes planned, but again, more roadworks this time. So there's a train track that I cross to get into like an uninterrupted section of footpath before completing my quality sections to a workout. But that train track was closed, so I had to do these loops back and ended up doing my 20-minute tempo through the suburbs and on one of the random footy fields just to meet the 20 minutes. We got to 30 seconds before the workout was done, and yeah, just couldn't hold whatever was left in my stomach, and I didn't eat any breakfast going into this run and just threw up again on the side of the footpath. I did 4.5 kilometers there for an average pace of 4 minutes 24. So I do feel like the final half a K, which I'm looking at now, dropped to the 5 minutes 19 per kilometer after holding around 4 minute 15 pace. So I do feel like that contributed to the slower times. Friday gym session and then a 12-kilometer run in the afternoon. It was 36 degrees when I decided to head out for this 12K run. Mistake, yes. Dehydrated, yes. And all of the above. Only managing to actually do just over 11Ks for a time of 1:01:46 and an average pace of 5 minutes 35 seconds per kilometer. Problem again was train track was closed, so I had to do a U-turn trying to work out how exactly to fit 12 kilometers in this tiny suburb. Decided to do a few laps around that footy oval again to see if I could make it up, and it just got to a point when I was closing in on getting home that I just decided to cut out that final K. I was just too hot. Did stop quite a bit due to traffic, but also to get a drink a couple of times near the footy oval. So overall, it was just one of those runs that just wasn't good at all. And then long run, which I actually completed yesterday at the time of filming this, was 28 kilometers. So really exciting, and I actually forgot to mention this, but on the Wednesday midweek long run for week 3, I finally got my hands on a pair of Super Blast 2s, the ASICS ones, and yeah, I was like, okay, I need to take them out again, and just such a good, comfy run to use those shoes in. So definitely going to be my long run shoe for the rest of my Tokyo build. Did this in a time of 2 hours, 34 minutes and 42 seconds for a time average pace of 5 minutes and 30 seconds per kilometer. I was most excited to see that my average heart rate was 146. Overall, felt really good with this run, taking in one gel and some of my SIS carbohydrate drink mix in one of my flasks. Just felt comfortable though for this entire run, and I just have to thank these are, look at the colorway, it's so nice. Yeah, just really held up really strong in the Super Blast 2s, and no doubt you can feel just how fast these are, and I could have easily had picked up the pace, but just decided to keep it easy and to keep that heart rate as low as possible. So total weekly mileage for week 3 was 87 kilometers, so another new PB with 10 weeks still to go. Overall, body is holding up pretty well when it comes to week 3, and also this additional mileage that I'm putting it under. Going into week 4 is obviously going to be a deload week, but week 3 was also the first time where I noticed my shins weren't as much of a problem as what they usually were, and even in my interval sessions and even my tempo session for a little bit, had zero shin splint pain. Easy runs have been fine. There is pain there in the initial stages before I warm up and it goes away. But yeah, it was a really good indicator that the additional day of strength training seems to be working at the moment. And also when it comes to the metrics and data, seeing my heart rate is gradually decreasing during those easy runs. And I'm glad, because I feel like I've struck that right balance between enough easy running, but also enough hard running to really build up that fitness when it comes to the marathon. And another, I guess, big goal of mine is to build that mental strength here, because this is my biggest enemy for anything at the moment. Long story. Just going to keep at it with those tempo runs and hopefully fortify this to head into Tokyo and be like, okay, let's really just hold such a good pace for a long time. Without realizing, I've kind of adopted an ASICS shoe rotation currently for the Tokyo build. So I've got the Nimbus 26s and picked up a pair of the Nova Blast 4s for my easy runs. Even took out the Nova Blast 4s for my 25k run, which did hold up pretty well. Using the Magic Speed 4s for my quality runs, so interval sessions as well as my tempo runs, and they have by far been one of my favorite shoes that I've ever discovered. But now, obviously, getting to trial the Super Blast 2s, found that, yeah, this is kind of my new favorite shoe that I'm dedicating to using for my midweek long run, but also my Saturday long run too. Nutrition-wise, I haven't really done too much focus yet on if I'm going to change from SIS gels for the marathon. But again, glad that I've been able to try Picari, both fueling before my runs, but also as a bit of a recovery source after them too. And getting into the Australian summer here, it's just sweating so much more. So my body is needing those salt and electrolytes to get through. You will also see in the next video on the channel a full week of what I was eating over the course of the week 3 marathon training. But keep in mind though as well, this is the final week before Christmas. So yeah, I was really just done with the year and wanted to eat as easily as possible, to be honest. Headspace and mentality wise, I do feel like I'm feeling very strong heading into week 4 and onwards. Glad that it is a deload week during the Christmas break to still keep up the training, but also have the opportunity to celebrate and catch up with loved ones over the course of it too. So yeah, I think that's going to wrap up my weeks 1 to 3 update for the marathon. So there we have it, weeks 1 through to 3 worth of training for the Tokyo Marathon. Hope you all enjoyed this little insight into what training is currently looking like, and am keen to continue sharing my journey as we get closer to race day. Kind of scary to think that it's less than 10 weeks away now, but hey, ready to give it a good red hot crack. Hope all is going well over on your side of the screen, including all things running, and wishing you all a very safe and happy festive period at the moment. Hope that you can continue to enjoy all that good food and the good drinks. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you all in the next one. I'm Jack, and I'll see you next time. Catch ya.